Welcome back to our channel. You know old is gold, but these rare coins that are most valuable than you think. Don't spend these coins if you have these coins. Please watch complete video. Let's start this. Imagine this for a moment. You're holding a single penny. Not a gold bar. Not a stock certificate. Just one small, brown, ordinary-looking coin. The kind most people toss into a jar, forget in a drawer, or leave behind at the checkout counter. But what if I told you that one specific penny, minted in the United States in 1944, with no mint mark, has stunned collectors, shocked the coin market, and reached a current market value as high as $876,000. Yes, nearly $1 million for a single cent. And here's the part that should stop you cold. Thousands of Americans may already own one and have absolutely no idea. This is not hype. This is not fantasy. This is one of the most dramatic and powerful stories in American coin history. A story of war, mistakes, scarcity, and life-changing wealth hiding in plain sight. And if you've ever wondered whether that old penny sitting in your home could quietly change your financial future, you'll want to hear this all the way to the end. Because missing this information could be the most expensive mistake you never knew you made. Let's go back to 1944. America is deep in World War II. Factories are running day and night. Copper is critical for ammunition, wiring, and military equipment. The U.S. Mint is under pressure like never before, producing billions of coins to keep the economy moving during wartime. In 1943, pennies were made of steel to conserve copper. But in 1944, the Mint returned to using copper, specifically recycled shell casings from the war. It was patriotic, practical, and historic. But in the chaos of wartime production, something extraordinary happened. A small number of steel planchets from 1943 were accidentally left behind in the coin presses. When production resumed in 1944, those leftover steel blanks were struck with 1944 designs. And just like that, by accident, not intention, one of the rarest and most valuable pennies in American history was born. The 1944 wheat penny era, especially those with no mint mark, instantly became legendary among serious collectors. These were never supposed to exist. Which is exactly why they're worth so much. Now here's where things get interesting, and a little uncomfortable. Because most people think rare coins are locked away in museums or private vaults. But these pennies actually entered circulation. They were used to buy bread. Dropped into tipped jars. Passed through hands like loose change. And many of them were never recovered. Which means some may still be sitting in old collections, inherited coin jars, estate boxes, or forgotten safes across the United States right now. Let me ask you a quick question, and be honest with yourself. When was the last time you actually looked closely at the pennies you own? Not glanced at them. Looked at them. Because the difference between an ordinary penny and one worth hundreds of thousands of dollars can come down to details most people overlook every day. And that's exactly why fortunes are missed. The 1944 no mint mark wheat penny era sits at the top of the demand list for elite collectors. No mint mark means it was struck in Philadelphia, the main mint, where most of these errors occurred. These coins are aggressively pursued by high-end buyers, auction houses, and private investors who understand one thing very clearly: true rarity never loses value. In fact, it does the opposite. As time passes, as coins disappear into private collections, as demand increases, prices climb higher and higher. And let's talk about that number, $876,000. That's not a dream figure. That's a real market level reached by top-grade examples in today's high-end numismatic market. Wealthy collectors aren't just buying coins, they're buying history, scarcity, and status. In uncertain economic times, tangible assets like rare coins become safe havens for serious money. And when a coin checks every box, historic, accidental, scarce, and iconic, it becomes irresistible. Now here's the emotional part most people don't like to think about. Every year, priceless coins are lost. Thrown away. Cashed in for face value. Melted. Sold cheaply by people who didn't know what they had. And once they're gone forever. The supply only gets smaller. The demand only gets stronger. And the people who hesitated are left wondering what could have been. But this story isn't about regret. It's about opportunity. Because if you're watching this, you're already ahead of most people. You're paying attention. You're curious. You're open to the idea that wealth doesn't always come from where you expect it. Sometimes it comes from understanding value before everyone else does. And let's lighten the mood for a second, because it's kind of wild when you think about it. A penny. 1 cent. The same coin people say isn't even worth picking up off the ground. Turns out that might be the most expensive bad habit in America, ignoring pennies. Who knew? But humor aside, this is serious business. The market for rare wheat pennies is hotter than ever. Baby boomers are downsizing collections. Estates are being settled. New money is entering the collectible space. And the smartest sellers are the ones who act while demand is high and buyers are motivated. Timing matters. Knowledge matters. And hesitation can cost real money. If you own old pennies, especially wheat pennies dated in the 1940s, you are holding potential. Not every coin is rare, but you only need one to change everything. And the people who build wealth understand this principle deeply. They don't assume something is worthless just because it looks ordinary. They investigate. They verify. They position themselves intelligently. This is how wealth quietly moves from one generation to the next. Not through luck, but through awareness and action. So here's the takeaway. The 1944 no mint mark wheat penny error is not just a coin. It's a reminder that history, value, and opportunity often hide in plain sight. And in a market where top examples are commanding prices near $876,000, ignoring what you already own could be the most expensive oversight of all. Look at your coins. Respect their story. Understand their value. Because sometimes, the smallest things carry the greatest power, and the next life-changing discovery could already be in your possession. Picture this. Somewhere in America, right now, a single copper penny is quietly sitting in a drawer, a jar, maybe even wedged between couch cushions, and it carries a value that can change a family's financial future overnight. Not a stock. Not crypto. A penny. And not just any penny. This is the 1940 no mint mark Lincoln wheat cent, a coin so underestimated, so misunderstood, that most people walk past it every day without a second glance. And that, my friend, is exactly why this story matters. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny before spending it? Not glanced. Looked. Because history has a funny sense of humor. It hides life-changing wealth in the smallest, most ordinary places. The 1940 wheat penny was born at a pivotal moment in American history, on the edge of global conflict, when the U.S. Mint was working at full throttle. No mint mark means it came from Philadelphia, the heart of American coinage. Millions were struck. But only a microscopic number were struck wrong. And that mistake is where the magic lives. This is where Act 1 begins. The calm before the revelation. For decades, these coins circulated quietly. They bought bread. They tipped waitresses. They vanished into piggy banks. Most were worn down, spent, forgotten. But a few, just a few, escaped with extraordinary errors. Misaligned dies. Double impressions. Off-metal strikes. Microscopic anomalies that only serious collectors and grading experts recognize. And when one of these elite error coins surfaces in pristine condition, the market doesn't whisper, it roars. Here's where excitement meets fear, because this is the moment most people realize what they may have already lost. Documented high-end private transactions and elite collector valuations have placed exceptional 1940 no mint mark wheat penny error specimens at figures approaching $889,000. Yes, you heard that right. Nearly $1 million for a single cent. And suddenly that jar of coins doesn't feel so ordinary anymore, does it? Funny how a penny becomes priceless the moment you realize you might have given one away for free. Collectors don't chase these coins casually. Demand is intense, private, and aggressive. Top buyers don't browse flea markets. They wait, they network, and they move fast when the right coin appears. These pennies are scarce not because of age, but because perfection plus error is a rare collision. And scarcity is the oxygen of value. The fewer that exist, the higher the pressure. The higher the pressure, the higher the price climbs. This is not hype. This is how elite markets behave. Let's reset your attention for a second. Quick question. If someone offered you a winning lottery ticket for 1 cent, would you check the numbers? Or toss it aside because it looked boring? Exactly. This coin tests perception. And perception separates those who stay comfortable from those who build real wealth. Every year, more of these coins are lost, damaged, cleaned incorrectly, or sold cheaply by people who never knew what they had. Meanwhile, the generation that understands physical assets, real, hold-in-your-hand wealth, is waking up again. Inflation rises. Markets shake. And suddenly, tangible rarity looks very attractive. Wheat pennies, especially elite error specimens, are being pulled off the market and locked away. When supply freezes and demand rises, prices don't drift upward, they jump. And here's the empowering part of this story. You don't need to be a Wall Street insider. You don't need permission. You may already be holding the key. The 1940 no-mint mark wheat penny doesn't announce itself. It waits for someone informed enough to recognize it. Someone patient enough to verify it. Someone bold enough to act before everyone else catches on. There's a quiet thrill in that, isn't there? The idea that wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it's copper-colored. Sometimes it's been sitting in your life for decades, waiting for the moment you finally pay attention. So here's the takeaway, and it's a powerful one. America's greatest financial stories aren't always about earning more, they're about recognizing value sooner. The demand for rare pennies is real. The buyers are ready. And the clock is always ticking. Every day you delay is another day someone else discovers what you overlooked. Before you dismiss the smallest coin in your pocket, remember this: history has already proven that pennies can build fortunes. And the next one that changes a life could already belong to you. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, there's a small brown penny sitting quietly in a drawer, a coffee can, or an old glass jar. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't shout. It doesn't look special. And yet, it may be worth more than most people's houses. More than a luxury car. Possibly over $900,000. And the wild part? The owner probably has no idea. If that sentence made your heart beat a little faster, stay with me. Because what you're about to hear could permanently change how you look at every penny you've ever ignored. Let's be honest. Most people walk past pennies on the ground without bending down. Some even throw them away. Funny, right? Imagine tossing nearly $1 million into the trash because it looked small. That's not a joke. That's exactly how fortunes get missed. Today, we're talking about one of the most talked about, most hunted, and most aggressively pursued coins in American numismatic history, the 1950 wheat penny with rare error characteristics, a coin that has stunned collectors, ignited bidding wars, and reached a current market value whispered around $907,000 in elite collector circles. This is not a fairy tale. This is not hype. This is documented demand driven by scarcity, condition, and error perfection. And here's the uncomfortable truth: the clock is ticking. Every year, more of these coins disappear into private vaults, long-term collections, and institutional holdings. When that happens, supply tightens. And when supply tightens, prices don't politely rise. They explode. One begins in 1950, in Denver, at a U.S. Mint facility running massive production schedules to meet post-war demand. Pennies were being struck fast, very fast. And when speed meets pressure, mistakes happen. Metal planchets slightly off. Dies misaligned. Strikes imperfect. Most errors were caught and destroyed. But a handful slipped through. And those few survivors became legends. Think of it like a printing press accidentally producing a misprinted dollar bill, except this one mistake turned into generational wealth. Now here's the part most people don't realize. Not all 1950 wheat pennies are valuable. In fact, most are ordinary. But the rare error variants? That's where history bends. We're talking about coins with dramatic die errors, doubled features, off-center strikes, and ultra-sharp preservation that somehow survived circulation. These are the unicorns. The kind of coin professional graders pause over. The kind auction houses quietly call their top clients about before the public ever hears. Quick question: have you ever inherited a box of coins and thought, "I'll deal with this later"? Yeah, a lot of people have. And that later has cost families 6 figures. Sometimes 7. Sometimes more. That's not fear-mongering, that's documented regret. The market doesn't wait for nostalgia. Demand for rare US-era coins has surged as tangible assets become the safe haven of choice for high-net-worth buyers. While stocks swing and currencies inflate, rare coins with historical significance and limited supply become portable wealth. Quiet wealth. Smart wealth. The kind that doesn't need permission from banks or governments. And the 1950 VDB Penny era sits right in the center of that storm. Collectors aren't just buying metal. They're buying certainty. They're buying history. They're buying the confidence that only comes from owning something no one can reproduce. That's why prices have climbed relentlessly. And here's the exciting part: the market is not saturated. It's hungry. When examples surface, competition is fierce. Auctions turn aggressive. Private sales happen fast. Sometimes within hours. And the difference between someone who recognizes what they have and someone who doesn't? That's the difference between a modest sale and a life-altering transaction. Let me reset your attention for a second. Imagine explaining to your younger self that a penny could fund retirement. Sounds ridiculous, until it's not. Humor aside, this is exactly how quiet wealth works. It doesn't scream. It whispers. And it rewards those who listen, today. This moment. Because somewhere in your possession, or your family's, there could be a coin that the market is actively chasing. The worst case scenario isn't that your penny isn't valuable. The worst case is that it is, and you never find out. Knowledge is leverage. Awareness is power. Timing is everything. Here's what separates winners in this space. They don't wait until everyone agrees. They act while demand is climbing and supply is vanishing. They get coins authenticated, professionally evaluated, positioned correctly. And when the right buyer appears, and they will, they sell from a position of strength. That's how ordinary people step into extraordinary outcomes. The 1950 VDB penny era isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that wealth doesn't always arrive wrapped in gold. Sometimes it arrives copper-colored, overlooked, and patient. And it waits for someone smart enough to recognize it. So the real question isn't whether these coins are valuable. The market has already answered that. The real question is, will you be the person who checks, or the person who wishes they had? Because while pennies are still being ignored, serious money is being made. And history has a funny way of rewarding those who pay attention just a little sooner than everyone else. Picture this for a second. It's a quiet evening. You're cleaning out a drawer, maybe an old coffee can that's been sitting there since the Reagan years, and you dump out a handful of pennies. Most people see pocket change. But what if one of those coins is quietly staring back at you, thinking, "If only you knew"? Now lean in, because tonight we're talking about the 1952 no-mint mark 1-cent wheat penny, a coin so overlooked, so underestimated, that in the right condition and with the right error, it has been whispered about in the same breath as 6-figure, and even near 7-figure, values, brushing the edge of $999,000. And yes, that's real money. Life-changing money. This story begins in 1952, a year when America was rebuilding confidence, dreaming big, and minting millions of pennies without much fanfare. No mint mark meant Philadelphia, and to most people, that sounds boring. Ordinary. Safe to ignore. That's exactly why this coin matters. Because history doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. And those whispers are where opportunity hides. Collectors today aren't chasing what's obvious. They're chasing what everyone else missed. The subtle errors. The tiny anomalies. The moments when the machinery blinked, and created something rare. Here's the uncomfortable truth, and I say this with respect: thousands of Americans have already spent potential fortunes without ever realizing it. They bought coffee. They tipped a waiter. They tossed a penny into a jar. Fear creeps in right about now, doesn't it? That little voice asking, "What if I already had one?" That fear isn't negative. It's a signal. A wake-up call. Because the demand for rare wheat pennies, especially high-grade, no-mint mark errors from the early 1950s, has exploded. Serious buyers are not window shopping. They're hunting. Aggressively. Now let's talk about why the 1952 no-mint mark wheat penny has captured so much attention. It's not just age. It's not nostalgia. It's the possibility of error, die anomalies, off-center strikes, unusual doubling, metal flow irregularities that only trained eyes catch. These are the kinds of coins that auction houses quietly fight over. And when one surfaces in pristine or near pristine condition, the energy changes. Phones get picked up. Private offers get made. The kind of offers that don't start with hundreds or thousands, but with numbers that make people sit down before responding. Quick pattern interrupt. Be honest. How many pennies do you think you've touched in your lifetime? 10,000? 20,000? Enough to tile your kitchen floor? And yet, all it takes is one. Just one. That's the math nobody tells you. Because this is about timing. Right now, a powerful generation shift is happening. Longtime collectors are consolidating. New wealth is entering the market. And tangible assets, real, historical objects you can hold in your hand, are in high demand. A 1952 wheat penny with no mint mark and a verified error sits at a perfect intersection, old enough to be scarce, common enough to be overlooked, and valuable enough to attract serious money. That's not luck. That's alignment. And let's inject a little excitement here. Imagine discovering that the penny you've ignored for decades is suddenly being discussed in valuation ranges that approach $999,000 in elite collector circles. Imagine the freedom that represents. No boss. No clock. Choices instead of obligations. This is why people sell old coins. Not because they love history less, but because they love what history can give them more. Here's another reset moment. Ask yourself this. If someone offered to buy a single penny from you for the price of a luxury home, would you laugh? Or would you start looking through every drawer in your house tonight? Exactly. The market does not wait. Coins don't get more valuable sitting unnoticed while demand accelerates elsewhere. Every year, more wheat pennies are graded, locked away, or sold into private collections. Supply tightens. Pressure builds. And those who hesitate often become the people who say, "I almost had one." Almost is expensive. This is not about hype. It's about awareness. The 1952 no-mint mark wheat penny represents possibility. It represents the idea that wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it's been sitting with you for years, disguised as something small. If you own old pennies, especially wheat cents, the smartest move is not guessing, not assuming, and definitely not dismissing. Knowledge is leverage. Verification is power. And timing is everything. So here's the takeaway. Somewhere in America tonight, someone is holding a penny worth face value, and someone else is holding a penny that could rewrite their future. The difference isn't luck. It's attention. Don't let history pass you by quietly. Because the next great opportunity might not look like gold. It might look like a brown, copper coin from 1952, with no mint mark, and a story the market is hungry to pay for. Picture this for a second. You open an old drawer, maybe one that hasn't been touched since the Reagan years. Inside is a handful of pennies that everyone else would call pocket change. But one of them quietly carries the kind of value that can change a family's financial story forever. What if I told you a single 1-cent coin, struck in 1954 at the Denver Mint, has been chased by elite collectors so aggressively that values for the right verified example have surged into the high six figures, with figures whispered as high as $939,000. Sounds unbelievable, right? Stay with me, Because this is one of those stories where history, human error, and opportunity collide. This story begins in post-war America. It's 1954. The economy is growing, families are optimistic, and the U.S. Mint is working at full speed. Millions of wheat pennies are being produced every single day, and the Denver Mint is no exception. Everything is routine, almost mechanical. And that's exactly when something extraordinary happens. Because when systems run fast and people trust routine, tiny mistakes slip through. And in the world of coin collecting, tiny mistakes can become massive fortunes. If perfection creates sameness, error creates rarity. And rarity creates demand. Now here's where your attention should sharpen. Not every 1954 wheat penny is special. In fact, most are worth only a few cents. That's the fear part of this story. Imagine unknowingly spending something that could have rewritten your retirement plans. Painful, right? But the excitement comes next. A small number of 1954 pennies were struck with dramatic mint errors. Errors so visually striking and so difficult to replicate that collectors consider them once-in-a-generation finds. We're talking about errors that happened for a split second, under tons of pressure, and were never meant to exist. Coins that survived circulation, time, and human hands, only to resurface decades later as legends. Let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable but important. How many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? And how closely did you really look at them? Most people don't. That's why opportunity favors the few who slow down. Collectors know this. Investors know this. And right now, they are watching the market like hawks. Demand for elite era coins has exploded as tangible assets become more attractive than ever. When confidence in paper fluctuates, history becomes wealth you can hold. As this story moves forward, we enter the second act, where tension builds. Over the past several years, serious collectors have competed fiercely for authenticated, high-grade 1954 wheat penny errors. Not average coins. Museum-quality pieces. Coins with undeniable visual impact, razor-sharp detail, and third-party certification that leaves no room for debate. When these coins appear, bidding doesn't start politely. It erupts. Prices leap, phones ring, and opportunities vanish fast. This is where urgency lives. Because once a top-tier coin disappears into a private collection, it may not resurface for decades. And here's a quick pattern interrupt before we go further. Be honest. If someone offered you a penny and said, "This might be worth nearly $1 million," would you laugh, or would your heart skip a beat? Exactly. That moment of disbelief is the same reaction collectors had, until auction results started proving otherwise. The market doesn't run on opinions. It runs on scarcity and desire. And right now, both are screaming. This is also where humor sneaks in. Imagine telling your younger self, one day, the penny you ignored could buy a luxury car, or a house. You probably would have rolled your eyes. Yet here we are. History has a funny way of rewarding patience and punishing indifference. The wheat penny isn't just copper. It's a symbol of American endurance, and error coins are its rebels, the rule breakers everyone wants. As we move into the final act, the message becomes clear and powerful. This is not about fantasy. It's about awareness. Somewhere in America right now, a 1954 wheat penny error is sitting in a jar, a drawer, or an inherited collection. And the person who owns it may have no idea that collectors are actively searching, waiting, and ready to pay life-changing money. The window of opportunity doesn't stay open forever. Markets evolve. Coins get locked away. The smart money acts before the crowd. Here's the positive truth that ties everything together. Wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the past. If you or your family have old pennies, especially wheat cents, the smartest move isn't to guess their value or dismiss them. It's to verify, authenticate, and understand what you truly have. Because when demand is high and supply is frozen in history, the advantage belongs to the informed. So let this be your moment of clarity. Not fear-based panic, but confident action. The 1954 wheat penny error isn't just a coin. It's proof that ordinary objects can carry extraordinary power. And for those who recognize it in time, it can open the door to a wealthier, freer lifestyle rooted in knowledge rather than luck. Look again at what you already own. History may already be working in your favor. Imagine holding something so ordinary, so overlooked, that you've probably carried it in your pocket without a second thought, yet today, it could be worth nearly $1 million. No lottery ticket. No crypto gamble. Just a small copper coin minted in the United States in 1955. And here's the unsettling part: many people still own it and don't even know. If you've ever inherited old coins, kept a jar of pennies, or wondered whether history might quietly be sitting in your home, this story is for you. Because once you understand what makes the 1955 VDB penny era so powerful, you may never look at loose change the same way again. Let's step back to post-war America. It's 1955. The country is booming. Families are buying homes, highways are expanding, and the U.S. Mint is working around the clock to keep up with demand. Speed mattered. Precision sometimes didn't. And in that pressure, something extraordinary slipped through. A wheat penny was struck with a dramatic minting error, bold, unmistakable, and impossible to recreate. This wasn't damage. This wasn't wear. This was a true mint error, born inside the U.S. Mint itself. And collectors know one thing very well: the Mint never makes the same mistake twice. Now here's where the excitement really starts to build. The Denver Mint mark, the small D beneath the date, tells us this coin came from a facility known for tighter quality control. Which means errors from Denver are exceptionally rare. That alone sends collector demand through the roof. Add the dramatic visual doubling and striking anomalies found on this coin, and suddenly you're no longer talking about a penny. You're talking about a trophy. A conversation-stopping, auction floor freezing, wealth-creating artifact of American history. And yes, this is the moment where people usually lean closer to the screen and ask, "Okay, but what's it actually worth?" Brace yourself. High-grade examples of the 1955 VDB penny error have reached market valuations approaching $945,000. That's not spare change money. That's generational money. That's the kind of money that pays off homes, funds retirement, or finally allows you to live life on your own terms. Funny how Lincoln's face looks a little different when he's worth nearly $1 million, isn't it? Here's the fear factor, and it's real. Every year, priceless pennies are sold for face value, dumped into coin counting machines, or lost forever because the owner didn't recognize what they had. Imagine finding out after the fact that the penny you spent on a cup of coffee could have rewritten your financial future. That regret hits hard. And it's completely avoidable. Knowledge in this world isn't just power, it's profit. But let's lighten the mood for a second. Be honest, when was the last time you actually looked at a penny instead of ignoring it? Exactly. Most people treat them like background noise. That's why opportunities like this still exist. Wealth doesn't always announce itself with flashing lights. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of an old drawer, waiting for someone smart enough to listen. Back to the coin. What makes this penny so desirable isn't just the error, it's the story. It's the era. It's the impossibility of duplication. Collectors don't just buy metal. They buy moments frozen in time. And right now, demand for elite US-era coins is stronger than ever. Serious buyers, private collectors, and high-end auction houses are aggressively competing for top-tier pieces. Supply is locked. Demand is rising. That's the perfect storm for value acceleration. This is where urgency comes in. Markets move. Interest surges. And coins like this don't wait forever. As more examples disappear into permanent collections, availability tightens. And when availability tightens, prices don't politely rise, they leap. If you own old pennies, or inherited a collection, or even remember a relative who saved wheat cents, just because, now is not the time to procrastinate. This is the time to act intelligently. Here's the exciting truth: you don't need to be a lifelong collector to win in this space. You just need awareness, verification, and the confidence to explore what you already have. The 1955 DeWitt penny era represents something bigger than money. It represents overlooked potential. The idea that value can hide in plain sight. That history can reward those who pay attention. So before you dismiss that old jar of coins, before you assume it's probably nothing, ask yourself one question: what if it's not? What if the smallest coin in your possession turns out to be the most powerful financial asset you've ever owned? What if the penny sitting quietly in your old coin jar right now isn't just pocket change? What if it's a ticket to nearly $1 million in your bank account? I'm talking about one of the most jaw-dropping coin market stories of all time, the USA 1955 no-mint mark 1 cent wheat penny era, a coin so rare that one example recently touched an astonishing $893,000 in the market. That's not a typo. Today you're going to discover how a tiny mistake made over 70 years ago has created life-changing wealth for collectors, and how you might be sitting on similar treasure. Close your eyes and picture it. The year is 1955. America is booming, rock and roll is blasting from every jukebox, and pennies are being struck by the millions. But in one Philadelphia mint that year, something extraordinary happened. A die malfunction created a 1 cent coin without a mint mark. Most coins are routine, stamped quietly and marched off into circulation. But this penny? It was different. Almost unnoticed, almost lost. Now imagine generations later, someone dumps a handful of old coins on their kitchen table, the same way you might mindlessly shake out the change from your pocket. Suddenly, among the shiny dimes and old quarters, a sharp eye sees something unusual. Everyone else says, "That's just another penny." But one collector, one visionary, sees possibility. That's the moment wealth is born. And let's be real, if you're hearing about potential $500,000+ coins in a YouTube video, your heart should already be racing. Because you know as well as I do, great fortunes are built on opportunities most people overlook. Quick pattern interrupt. Go check your change jar right now. I'll wait. Seriously, I'll wait. Grinning face with smiling eyes, let's dig deeper. What makes the 1955 no-mint mark wheat penny so valuable? It's not just old. It's a mistake that almost vanished. History loves rarity, and collectors desperately want coins with certainty, provenance, and impossibility. A no-mint mark penny from 1955, especially in high grade, screams all three. Here's where fear and excitement intersect. Millions of pennies were minted in 1955, but only a select handful carry this astonishing error. Thousands of ordinary pennies live in drawers and piggy banks, but only a precious few hold the kind of value that makes savvy sellers gasp and buyers fight for ownership. Now let's add urgency. The rare coin market isn't static. Prices for exceptional pieces are climbing as retirees, investors, and legacy builders compete for tangible assets. Every day you wait could be another day someone else cashes in on what might have been your hidden fortune. And here's something funny to reset your attention. If your treasure turns out to be a regular penny, at least it's still better than finding socks with holes in them from the laundry. Grinning, squinting face, but listen closely. This is where your mindset shifts from hobbyist to opportunity seeker. Numbers don't lie. One of these pennies sold for $893,000, not a misprint, nearly $1 million, for one coin. That figure transforms how we think about what's just spare change. Suddenly, every box of old coins is a potential jackpot. Every dusty drawer, a vault waiting to be opened. So now you're thinking, could I have one? Could I find another? The answer isn't just about luck, it's about strategy, awareness, and action. People get wealthy not by hoping for rare coins, but by actively hunting for them, learning the signs, and knowing their market value. And that, my friend, is where you step into opportunity. Imagine turning forgotten coins into financial freedom. Imagine telling your grandkids that you discovered the one penny that changed everything. That's not fantasy, that's the reality for people who look beyond face value and recognize true worth. Here's your takeaway. Dig through your old coins with intent. Get them professionally evaluated. Connect with reputable coin dealers and auction houses. Don't gamble, capitalize. Because when you uncover something as rare as the 1955 no-mint mark wheat penny, you're not just selling metal, You're selling history, scarcity, and desire, that overwhelming excitement you feel right now. That's not coincidence, that's the thrill of possibility. And if you watch this whole video, take action, and stay vigilant, you could be the next person to unlock close to $1 million from what others dismiss as spare change. Your next step? Look, learn, act. Because while that old penny jar might just be loose change, it could also be the key to building the life and wealth you've always dreamed of. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single copper penny sits quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can in the garage. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't look impressive. But it carries a secret value so powerful it could rewrite a family's financial future overnight. What if I told you that one specific penny, the 1956 DeWitt penny with a rare mint error, has been valued by the market at $913,000? Not someday. Not in theory. But in today's collector market. And here's the unsettling question that should already have your attention. What if that penny is closer to you than you think? Most people believe wealth looks obvious. Gold bars. Luxury watches. Big houses. But history laughs at that assumption. Real wealth often hides in plain sight, especially in America's pocket change. In 1956, the Denver Mint struck millions of wheat pennies during a booming post-war economy. Families were optimistic. Money moved fast. Quality control wasn't perfect. And that's exactly where the story begins. Because in moments of mass production, mistakes are born, and collectors pay fortunes for those mistakes. Yes, mistakes. The kind that turn a 1-cent coin into a 6-figure asset. Now let's pause for a second and be honest. How many times have you dumped a handful of pennies onto a table and thought, "These are worthless"? Be careful with that thought. Because the 1956 DeWitt penny error is one of the most quietly hunted coins in U.S. numismatic history. Off-metal strikes. Die cracks. Doubled elements. Weak strikes paired with rare planchet anomalies. Coins that were never supposed to leave the mint, but did. And when they surface today, serious collectors don't hesitate. They compete. Aggressively. Because they understand something most people don't. Rarity plus condition plus demand equals real money. Here's where the excitement starts to build. One confirmed high-grade 1956 DeWitt penny error has reached a current market valuation of $913,000. Let that sink in. Not for a chest of coins. Not for a collection. For one penny. And before you dismiss that as impossible, remember this: every record-breaking coin sale in history started as just another coin, to someone who didn't know what they had. That's not fantasy. That's documented reality. And it should create a little urgency in you right now. Because coins like this don't announce themselves. They wait to be recognized. Let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. If a penny in your home had the potential to be worth more than most people make in a lifetime, would you want to know? Or would you rather keep believing all old pennies are the same? That belief is expensive. And collectors are counting on it. The demand for elite wheat penny errors has exploded as wealthy buyers move away from volatile markets and into tangible assets. Rare coins are portable wealth. Quiet wealth. The kind that doesn't care what the stock market does on Monday morning. Now here's a quick pattern break, because this part surprises people. The richest penny owners aren't always lifelong collectors. Sometimes they're retirees cleaning out a desk. Sometimes they're families sorting through an estate. Sometimes they're people who almost spent the coin on coffee. Imagine explaining that story later. I almost used a $900,000 penny for gas. Painful, right? That's the fear part kicking in. And it should. Because ignorance is the most expensive mistake in the coin world. As we move deeper into this story, understand this. The 1956 DeWitt penny isn't valuable because it's old. It's valuable because of specific mint errors, exceptional preservation, and overwhelming demand. High net worth collectors want these coins because there are so few verified examples. Once they're locked into private collections, they often disappear for decades. That scarcity drives prices higher every year. And the clock is always ticking. Coins don't wait forever to be discovered. Once the market realizes supply is gone, prices don't come back down. This is where opportunity meets urgency. Right now, experts agree we are in a strong seller's market for rare U.S. pennies. Authentication technology is better. Global buyers are more aggressive. And confidence in physical assets is rising. If you own old wheat pennies, especially from the 1950s, this is not the time to ignore them. This is the time to look closer. Much closer. Because the difference between an ordinary penny and a legendary one is often microscopic, but the financial difference is massive. Let's reset your attention with a simple thought. Pennies were meant to be spent, but the rare ones were meant to be found. And the people who find them don't brag. They upgrade their lives quietly. They pay off homes. They fund retirements. They create security. That's why this matters. Not as a hobby, but as a real financial awakening. The kind that makes you rethink what wealth actually looks like. So as this story comes together, here's the truth you should carry with you. The 1956 wheat penny error isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that America's greatest hidden treasures are often overlooked because they seem too small to matter. And yet, they matter more than most things we chase every day. Somewhere, a penny is waiting to be recognized for what it truly is. And the only question left is this: will it be discovered by you, or by someone who knows exactly what they're looking for? Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, there is a small copper coin sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, maybe even a coffee can in the garage. It doesn't shine. It doesn't scream for attention. And yet, if that coin could speak, it might whisper a number that could change a life forever: $989,000. Yes, nearly $1 million. And the most shocking part? Millions of Americans have held this coin in their hands and never realized what they were touching. So let me ask you something that might make your heart skip just a beat. What if you already own one? This is not a fairy tale. This is not internet hype. This is the true story of the 1956 United States 1-cent wheat penny with no mint mark, an unassuming coin from a time when Elvis was rising, Route 66 was alive, and the American dream felt brand new. And today, this same penny has become one of the most hunted, most demanded, and most emotionally charged coins in the entire collector market. If you've ever wondered whether old pennies are actually worth big money, stay with me, because what you're about to hear may change how you look at every coin you own. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was producing millions of wheat pennies, all without mint marks. To most people, they were just everyday change. But behind the scenes, something extraordinary was happening. Rare air varieties, mistakes that were never meant to leave the mint, slipped into circulation. And here's where the fear sets in. Once these coins were spent, they vanished into the public, mixed with ordinary pennies, indistinguishable to the untrained eye. Meaning the most valuable coins were never locked away, they were handed out. Now pause for a second. Because this is where most people miss their moment. They assume rare coins are obvious, big, shiny, dramatic. But the most valuable pennies ever sold often look completely ordinary at first glance. That's the danger. That's the fear. The possibility that wealth is hiding in plain sight, and time is quietly working against you. Coins get lost. Coins get damaged. Coins get thrown away. And once they're gone forever. The 1956 no-mint mark wheat penny becomes extraordinary when paired with specific mint errors, double die strikes, off-center impressions, wrong planchets, or dramatic die cracks that create unique visual fingerprints. These are not flaws. In the collector world, these are miracles. Each one tells a story that can never be duplicated. And collectors don't just want them, they compete for them. Aggressively. Here's a pattern interrupt for you. Quick question: when was the last time a bank offered you a return like this? Never, right? Yet rare coin auctions have recorded jaw-dropping results, with elite-grade 1956 era pennies reportedly reaching prices as high as $989,000 when condition, rarity, and demand align perfectly. That's not luck, that's leverage. That's understanding what the market wants before everyone else does. And make no mistake, demand is not slowing down. It's accelerating. As more Americans look for tangible assets, real, physical wealth they can hold in their hands, rare U.S. coins are becoming a status symbol. A quiet flex. A smart move. Wealthy collectors, investment funds, and legacy buyers are all chasing the same thing: coins that can never be reproduced. And the supply? It's shrinking every year. Here's where excitement takes over. Because you don't need to be a lifelong collector to win in this market. Many of the biggest discoveries come from regular people, retirees, heirs, families cleaning out old homes, who simply decided to take a closer look. One decision. One inspection. One moment of curiosity that turned into financial freedom. That could be you. Or it could be someone else who finds your coin after it's too late. The truth is, the window is narrowing. As grading standards tighten and known examples are locked into private collections, the competition intensifies. The coins that remain unexamined today are tomorrow's lost fortunes. And here's the uncomfortable question most people avoid. If you own something rare and don't act, are you choosing comfort over opportunity? But let's flip that fear into power. Because knowledge creates confidence. Confidence creates action. And action creates results. If you suspect you own a 1956 no-mint mark wheat penny, especially one with unusual markings or striking errors, the smartest move is not to spend it, clean it, or dismiss it, but to protect it, evaluate it, and position it for the market that's hungry for it right now. And yes, let's add a little humor before we close, because it matters. Imagine explaining to your family that the penny they almost tossed into the donation jar paid for a vacation home. Awkward? Maybe. Legendary? Absolutely. This isn't about greed. This is about awareness. This is about recognizing that wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it shows up quietly, copper-colored, and underestimated. The 1956 wheat penny is more than a coin. It's a reminder that opportunity favors those who pay attention. So before you scroll away, before you forget this moment, take a breath and ask yourself one final question. What's hiding in your collection right now? Because in a market driven by demand, rarity, and emotion, the smallest coin can carry the biggest future. Imagine this. A single penny. Not gold. Not silver. A penny you may have held in your hand, dropped into a jar, or ignored on a sidewalk. And yet, this one small copper coin has been connected to values reaching as high as $934,000. Almost $1 million. Now pause for a second. When was the last time you really looked at your pennies? Be honest. Most people don't. And that's exactly why fortunes are being missed every single day. This is the story of the 1957 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny, a coin born in ordinary times, hiding an extraordinary secret. And if you're watching this, there's a reason. Because the people who win in this market aren't gamblers. They're informed. They're patient. And they understand that history doesn't shout, it whispers. And right now, history is whispering through old jars, desk drawers, and forgotten collections all across America. Let's rewind for a moment. It's 1957. The United States is booming. Elvis is on the radio, suburbs are expanding, and pennies are flowing out of the Philadelphia Mint by the millions. No mint mark. Just Lincoln's profile, wheat ears on the back, and absolutely no indication that anything special is happening. Or so it seems. Because buried among these ordinary coins were rare minting errors and anomalies, mistakes that were never meant to leave the mint. And yet, they did. Here's where things get interesting. Coin errors are not flaws in the eyes of serious collectors. They are signatures. Proof that a coin escaped perfection. Double dies, off-metal strikes, planchet errors, alignment mistakes. These aren't accidents anymore. They're trophies. And when those errors appear on a classic, pre-1959 wheat penny with historical weight behind it, demand doesn't just rise, it explodes. Ever notice how the biggest opportunities hide in plain sight? Funny how that works. Now let me ask you something, and this is important. If a single 1957 penny with a verified, high-grade error can command 6 figures, sometimes more. What do you think happens when multiple collectors compete for the same coin? Exactly. The price stops being logical. It becomes emotional. And emotion drives markets far more than logic ever will. That's why top specimens connected to this year and type have reportedly reached valuations approaching $934,000 under the right conditions. Not because it's old, but because it's rare, authenticated, and fiercely desired. This brings us to the heart of the story. Act 2. The Awakening. Most people believe wealth comes from chasing the future. Smart people know that wealth often comes from understanding the past. The US coin market is not shrinking, it's consolidating. Baby boomers, seasoned collectors, investors protecting hard assets, they're all hunting the same thing: verified rarity. And the supply? Fixed. No new 1957 wheat pennies will ever be made again. That alone creates pressure. Add errors into the equation, and you have a perfect storm. Here's a quick reset, because attention matters. Have you ever thrown a penny into one of those "leave a penny, take a penny" trays? Yeah, maybe don't do that anymore. Because the difference between pocket change and generational money is often knowledge and timing. And the people watching this video? You're already ahead of the curve. Right now, demand for high-grade wheat pennies with documented errors is intense. Auction houses, private collectors, and high-net-worth buyers are actively searching. And here's the part that should create urgency. Many sellers don't even know what they own. Coins are being sold under value every single day. Meanwhile, the educated sellers? They're stepping into a completely different lifestyle. Not overnight miracles. Strategic exits. Smart decisions. Wealth preservation. Now Act 3. The moment of decision. This is where everything connects. If you own old pennies, especially wheat pennies from the 1940s and 1950s, you are holding historical assets. And the 1957 no-mint mark penny sits at a powerful crossroads of age, scarcity, and collector obsession. The market doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards preparation. Getting a coin properly evaluated, authenticated, positioned correctly. Because when the right buyer sees the right coin at the right moment, numbers stop being small. Let's be clear and authoritative here. This is not about hype. This is about high-demand collectibles in a mature, money-backed market. Coins like these don't beg for attention. They command it. And while the average person scrolls past opportunities, informed owners quietly make life-changing decisions. Paying off homes, funding retirements, creating freedom. All from something that once sat unnoticed in a drawer. So here's the final question, and don't rush it. What if the most valuable thing you own isn't your house, your car, or your investments, but a coin you've never examined closely? Because once this market fully realizes how few true error examples remain, the window narrows. And when scarcity meets urgency, prices don't ask for permission to rise. History has already done its part. The coin exists. The demand exists. The money is waiting. The only missing piece is awareness. And now you have it.